oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm always angry, you know, I'm always angry. I'm always shouting, headache, and gastrointestinal issues. I know that sounds like some kind of science jargon. Yeah, headache and you can begin to experience some form of headache. Some form of headache. You know those headache that my children, my husband, my spouse, and my kids don't want to be around me. Hi guys, hello. So my lovelies, so my sweeties, always happy to chat with you guys. This is your girl TTK. My name is Ttkjinadu. I'm back again with another Telling It Just the Way It Is chat series. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Just click on that red button. Click on it. It's free for you, free specially for you, specially packaged for you. Okay guys, let's chat. Let's chat. You can tell from the topic of this video, sign that you might be suffering from midlife crisis. Midlife crisis refer to crisis of self-identity and self-confidence, which happen around midlife or middle age. This middle age is usually between the ages of 40 and 50. Some say 55, but 40s and 50s. So if you're watching me and you're in your 40s and 50s, this video will be very useful or helpful to you. Sometimes it's always good to understand what is going on within this body and what is going on with our emotions. It's very good to understand why we are behaving a certain way or why a loved one is suddenly behaving a certain way. But guys, it's not an excuse for every wrongdoing, but it's good to highlight this and to bring it to your awareness. Midlife crisis is another phase in life, going through adjustments and going through a transition during the midlife years. Some people call it emotional midlife crisis. Okay guys, with midlife crisis, some experts say the signs are pretty similar to depression. There are many stages of midlife crisis. Some are mild and some are pretty severe. When I say severe, serious, they're on the borderline of, you know, depression. So guys, the first sign that you might be suffering from midlife crisis, in no particular order, but my first is when you begin to feel you're losing your mind. You know, you can't find where you put your keys, you can't find where you put your purse, you can't find where you... I know this might sound pretty normal, but when you are at that age, between your 40s and 50s or 55, and you consistently feel like you're losing your mind, or you walk into a room and like, what did I come and do in this room? Does that sound familiar? There's nothing wrong with you, but these are signs of midlife crisis. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm always angry, you know, I'm always angry. I'm always shouting and yelling at the kids or at my children. My husband, my spouse, and my kids don't want to be around me. These are signs of midlife crisis. I'm not saying when this happens anytime, they are signs of midlife crisis. No, that's not what I mean. But when you are at that age, these are signs. If you're doing these things consistently, they are signs. This sudden shift in personality traits could be due to reduce or decrease in estrogen. Estrogen, mainly in women. Estrogen, I will explain what estrogen is. I'm sure most women watching me are familiar with estrogen, but I will explain it in a simple language. Estrogens are hormones that are very important to women in the development of reproductive or sexual stages. I will repeat. Estrogen are hormones that are very important to women in reproductive or sexual development. This is mainly common with women. When there's a reduction or a decrease in estrogen, your hormones begin to go up and down. The moods, the screaming, the yelling, the, you know, this sudden irritation that occurs, and that starts at a certain age. You know, some people refer to these stages as perimenopause, or you can call it midlife crisis, they are pretty challenging. They can be pretty challenging. It depends on stages and how severe your signs are. Some people, just 1 or 2 signs and they are good. Why some have it really severe? They have it really severe. Okay, number 2 is headache and gastrointestinal issues. I know that sounds like some kind of science jargon. Yeah, headache and gastrointestinal issues, that's what they call it. When you begin to have this consistent headache, and that's, you know, like hormones, when you begin to experience hormonal imbalance, sometimes it triggers some imbalance within your hormones, and you begin to act out of character, When that happens, you become stressful. You start experiencing some form of anxiety, and if that is not checked properly, you can begin to experience some form of headache. You know those headache that you, after using painkiller, after 2 hours it goes away, or 3 hours, and then it comes back again. This is not always the case, but if you're suffering from midlife crisis, this can be the case. It comes back again, and some people experience gastrointestinal issues. This gastrointestinal issues is just a form of indigestion, basically. Let me explain it in simple language. Basically, indigestion. When you begin to experience this, it's because what we feel emotionally reflects in our physical being, and it's very important that we notice this thing. The way we feel emotionally reflects in our physical being. You know, some people sometimes, when they're going through some kind of stress, or anxiety or some kind of depression, their blood pressure will go up, and that could trigger so many things. That is the same way with midlife crisis, if not checked sometimes. Not everybody experiences these signs, but if you're one of those, I think you should quickly check it and take life easy. Very easy. Number 3, signs that you might be suffering from midlife crisis. Number 3, it's pretty hot in the UK, so pardon me, I need this to blow myself. So number 3 is that some people will begin to add weight. Some might lose weight. And when I say add weight, you know, sometimes when you eat, you add weight. When you eat too much, you add weight, you understand? But this time, you're not eating as much as you would normally eat, and you're still adding weight. Or some will just experience some form of weight loss. So these two can be a sign. Not always the case, because it might be a sign of something else. Because sometimes when you're suffering from some kind of disease, that's also a sign. But these two can be a sign that you're suffering from midlife crisis. So notes. Sign number 4, signs that you might be suffering from midlife crisis. Sign number 4 is when you become apathetic, when you suddenly lose interest in everything there is to life. Losing interest in everything there is to life is on the borderline of self-sabotage. It is, because once you begin to feel that way, you begin to cut yourself or move away from self-improvement, self-value, things that can make you happy, things that can lift you up, things that can push you forward. You begin to push them away because you're not interested. You're not interested. You lack interest. No, lack of enthusiasm. It's all gone. It's all gone. And according to experts, they advise that apart from seeing a professional or a specialist or a psychologist, you are advised to begin to think of the positive things around you, no matter how little. Think about those positive things you've achieved, no matter how little. Begin to think of those. Think about them. It might be it could be anything, even family. It might be your kids, your daughter, your boy, your son, your husband, your wife, your house, your car. Just begin to think of those little things you've achieved. Focus more. It's very important that at that point in time, according to my research, that you focus on every positivity that has ever occurred in your life. That pushes you away from that negativity, and it helps. It puts you back on track. Point number 5, signs number 5 that you might be suffering from midlife crisis. This number 5, I find it very funny. According to experts and according to my research, is jealousy. Jealousy is another sign of midlife crisis. Some people are naturally jealous. Forget that one, though. But you begin to feel some form of jealousy when you're in your midlife crisis. It's not everybody that experiences this, but some people do. And what you do is you begin to analyze other people's wealth. Analyze other people's wealth, compare it with yours, and get angry at their sources. That is the form of jealousy you experience. And you begin to compare. Comparison is a major factor here. Maybe they're your age mate or your peer group. They are more successful in life than you are. You begin to compare. You begin to compare and feel a certain way about their success and jealous about their success. But at that stage, if you're experiencing any signs of jealousy, especially during midlife crisis, and if you're normally not the jealous type, the advice is that you need to remind yourself that, first, fingers are not equal. Secondly, you did not start off exactly the same way. The opportunities you meet along the way, or you are open to, or you have access to along the way, are different. They're different. And the family, the background, the opportunities they're open to, the more hard work, and the honest point here is the hard work they put in. Did you put in that hard work? You understand? And you can't keep comparing. And you need to remind yourself that if you did not do it right then, you can still do it now. You can still correct yourself now. Fingers are not equal. And we need to remember that comparison robs you of joy. I say this all the time. When we begin to compare ourselves with others, we lose focus because our direction might not be their direction. If they're going A and you're looking at somebody going D, then you begin to lose track of where you're supposed to be going to. It's very, very important. We need to stop comparing. Signs that you might be suffering from midlife crisis. Signs number 6, when you begin to over question and analyze yourself. You know, it's pretty normal at some stage or at some point in life. We all have this tendency to pause, to stop and pause. Okay, what am I not doing right? What am I supposed to be doing that I am not doing? Why am I not achieving A, B, D, and C? That is pretty okay. But when you begin to and that can be positive, you know, when you question, when you question yourself. But when you begin to over question yourself, that you analyze and over analyze, and then the end result is you're a failure. You understand? You're a failure. You've not achieved what you're supposed to achieve. Yes, fair enough, you might not have. But when you now ended up with that result of being a failure, and if at all you ended up with that result of being a failure, it depends on the direction you take it. If you assumed that you failed completely, and on that assumption you're willing to pick yourself up and start again, or work at it, then it's fine. But when you overly think it, and then on the assumption that you fail, you begin to dwell on it. You stay there and then you begin to dwell on it. You begin to see yourself more as a failure. You begin to lose interest. You become moody. Then you're on the borderline of depression. And that, again, is a sign of midlife crisis. But it needs to be checked. I believe in self-evaluation and self-reflection. I believe in it so much. I do believe in it. Because sometimes when you do that, it eliminates those things that are not supposed to be there. It might even be people that are not supposed to be in your life, or you're not supposed to be close to. Or it might be some friends that you have that you've been with 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, that each time you're in the midst, you feel kind of deflated, you feel kind of dejected, they kind of draw you back. When you reflect, you might need to just distance yourself and cut them off. Yeah, sometimes it can be positive. It can be something that you were working on, and you just, during your reflection time, you pick it up. Like, I'm supposed to have finished XYZ, that project, that thing I'm working on, and then you pick it up. So it can be positive. But when you do it in a way that is having a negative effect rather than a positive effect, then it can be very bad. And this too can be a sign of midlife crisis, but it needs to be checked. Sign number 7. that you might be suffering from midlife crisis is that when you make rash decisions, irrational decisions, when you act on impulse, you know, for example, you might begin to think your marriage is not as romantic as it's supposed to be. So divorce flag you, divorce, so time for divorce. Or that work, you're supposed to have been promoted twice or 3 times, and then you begin to lose interest, you don't want to go to work. That's also a sign. And when you act on impulse, you know, when you make irrational decisions, there's bound to be lots of regret. So we need to check that. But that can be a sign of midlife crisis, especially if you're not that type and you suddenly become this person. That might be a sign of midlife crisis. Okay, sign number 8, signs that you might be experiencing or suffering from midlife crisis. Number 8 is lack of sleep. When you begin to experience some form of insomnia, where at night you just cannot sleep, you can't go to sleep, you're just there staring at the clock going by or ticking by, you just cannot sleep, then this might be a form of midlife crisis. It's not always the case, but if you're experiencing any form of insomnia, you are advised not to take any sleeping tablets. You are advised not to take any sleeping pills because they can be very addictive. And being addictive means your kidney or your liver is in danger. You know what that means when your kidney or your liver are in danger. So you're advised not to take any sleeping pills. But from experience and from what my doctor has advised me to do, and I will share this here, is when you're experiencing any form of insomnia or any lack of sleep, is you're advised to do exercise. You know, when you work out this body and it's very, very tired, there's no way you will not sleep. You will just sleep. That sleep will come naturally, and it's better, way better than taking those sleeping tablets. So lack of sleep is another sign of midlife crisis. Those are signs. Not always, so it might be something else, but most times when you're between those ages of 40 and 50s, then it might be a sign of midlife crisis. Okay, sign number 9. Another sign is loss of interest in sex. Loss of interest in sex. This is very, very common among women. Women going through perimenopause or midlife crisis due to dry vagina or low libido. It's very, very common. But it's nothing to worry about if you're experiencing these signs. There's so many hormonal tablets or pills you can get at the pharmacy, or if you live in the UK, you can get them in the boat. An example is the evening primrose. You can get that one too at the boat or in boats. So loss of sex or loss of interest in sex is another sign that you might be going through midlife crisis. The last but not the least is when you begin to feel like your best times, your most happiest time is when you were young, and you can never ever be that happy again. When you begin to feel that way, these are signs as well that you might be going through midlife crisis. It's so sad that people have this opinion or impression that you can only have a nice time when you're young. It's so not true. It is so not true. It depends on how you see yourself, how gratified you are about oneself. Happiness can happen at any age. Some people enjoy themselves more and experience more happiness the older they get. It's in the mind. It's the way we think about life. You can find happiness anywhere, and you can create fun for yourself. So once you start thinking that way, you need to remember and remind yourself that when there's life, there is hope. You can always find happiness and fun anywhere, any part of the world, at any time in life. There are people that have a very bad youth or bad childhood, but experience happiness later in life. So it depends on each and everyone, but you can experience happiness at any time in life, at any age in life. It depends on you as a person. You can find happiness anywhere. Create fun, change your mindset, begin to think more positive. That's the only way forward. Okay, guys. So my lovelies, so my sweeties, it's been nice chatting with you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please do not keep it to yourself. Do not keep this video to yourself. Like this video and share. Make sure you share. Share this video. Let me love you and leave you. Have a nice day. Have a nice week. God bless you. Ta-ta. Ta-ra.